Imagine being the first love of history's greatest conqueror. You give him his firstborn son. You stand beside him during his most legendary victory. You're destined to become the most powerful woman in the empire. Then one day, a new woman arrives at the palace. Younger, more beautiful, more ambitious, and everything you were promised disappears. This isn't a soap opera. This is the true story of Gulbahar Hatun, the woman who married Mehmed the Conqueror, gave birth to a future sultan, and then spent decades watching her life slip away. But here's the twist. She didn't just survive. She waited. She planned. And eventually, she became one of the most powerful women in Ottoman history. Her story has everything: a legendary love that faded, palace rivalries that would make Game of Thrones look tame, a mother's desperate fight to protect her son's future, and a comeback so spectacular it took 30 years to achieve. Today, I'm going to tell you about the woman history forgot, the first wife who refused to disappear. By the end of this video, you'll understand why being first doesn't always mean being forever, and how sometimes the greatest revenge is simply surviving long enough to win. Ready to meet the woman who waited 3 decades for her moment? Let's begin. The year 1446. Inside the Ottoman palace, a teenage prince named Mehmed, future conqueror, meets a young woman named Gulbahar. She's beautiful, intelligent, and from a noble Turkish family. For young Mehmed, it's something close to love. In the rigid world of Ottoman politics, where marriages are arranged and concubines are chosen by advisors, Gulbahar represents something rare, a genuine connection. They marry when Mehmed is just 14 years old. She becomes his first wife, his true companion during his teenage years when he's still learning to be a prince, not yet the legendary conqueror he'll become. And then, the greatest gift she could give him, a son. 1447. Gulbahar gives birth to a baby boy, Bayezid. In Ottoman tradition, this changes everything. She's not just a wife anymore, she's the mother of a potential sultan. In the brutal world of Ottoman succession, where princes literally fight to the death for the throne, having the firstborn son means having the best chance. Gulbahar's future seems secure. She's young. She's the first wife. She has the first son. When Mehmed becomes sultan, she'll become the most powerful woman in the empire. But she's about to learn a harsh lesson. In the Ottoman palace, nothing is guaranteed. 1451. Mehmed becomes sultan at 19. Gulbahar expects to rise with him. She's been his companion through his struggles, his doubts, his dreams of conquering Constantinople. But something changes in Mehmed. The boy who loved her is becoming the man who will be called the Conqueror. And conquerors don't have time for teenage romance. The palace brings him new women, more educated, more sophisticated, more politically connected, women from powerful families who can bring alliances, women who can help him achieve his impossible dream. Gulbahar watches as her husband's attention shifts. She's still his wife, she's still the mother of his son, but she's no longer the center of his world. And then, the woman who will change everything arrives. Her name is Gulshar, though some sources call her Çiçek Hatun. She's younger than Gulbahar, stunningly beautiful, highly educated, and most importantly, ambitious beyond measure. Mehmed is captivated. This isn't just about beauty. Gulshar can discuss philosophy, poetry, military strategy. She becomes not just his lover, but his intellectual companion during the most important years of his life. 1451 to 1453. The years Mehmed plans the siege of Constantinople. The years he needs focus, intelligence, strategic thinking. Gulshar gives him all of that. Gulbahar, with a young son to care for, can't compete. She's been relegated to the background while another woman stands beside the Sultan during his greatest triumph. When Constantinople falls in 1453 and Mehmed becomes the conqueror at 21, it's Gulshar who shares in the glory. Gulbahar is forgotten. But here's what makes Gulbahar's story fascinating. She doesn't disappear. She doesn't accept defeat. She does something far more strategic. She focuses entirely on her son Bayezid. While Gulshar has Mehmed's attention, Gulbahar has something more valuable: time with the future sultan. She pours everything into Bayezid's education, his character, his preparation for power. She teaches him politics and diplomacy, military strategy, how to navigate palace intrigue, the importance of patience, how to wait for your moment. Most importantly, she teaches him to be different from his father. Where Mehmed is a warrior conqueror, Bayezid will be a scholar administrator. Where Mehmed is aggressive, Bayezid will be cautious. It's a long game, and Gulbahar is willing to play it. Over the years, Mehmed has other sons from different women. This is Ottoman tradition, multiple heirs to ensure succession. But it also means competition. Bayezid is the eldest, but that doesn't guarantee him the throne. In Ottoman succession, any son can become sultan if he reaches Constantinople first, when the old sultan dies and has enough support. Gulbahar knows her son needs more than birthright. He needs military commanders' loyalty, religious scholars' support, palace officials' backing, the Janissaries' respect for decades. She works quietly behind the scenes, building alliances for her son. Every favor she does, every relationship she maintains, every piece of advice she gives Bayezid, it's all preparation for the day Mehmed dies, because she knows that day will come. And when it does, Bayezid must be ready. The years pass: 1453, 1460, 1470. Mehmed continues his conquests. He's the most powerful sultan in Ottoman history, constantly at war, constantly expanding. Gulbahar ages in the palace, no longer young, no longer beautiful by palace standards. Newer, younger women arrive. Mehmed's attention shifts among them, but Gulbahar has something none of them have: a son who's proven himself capable. Bayezid is governing provinces, learning administration, showing the competence needed to rule, and slowly, opinion in the palace shifts. The Janissaries respect Bayezid. The religious establishment trusts him. The administrators see him as stable, reliable, unlike his unpredictable, constantly warring father. Gulbahar's long game is working, but there's a problem. Mehmed has another son, Cem, younger than Bayezid, but charismatic, militarily talented, and most importantly, Mehmed's favorite. Palace whispers suggest Mehmed wants Cem to succeed him, not Bayezid. This breaks Ottoman tradition. The eldest, most capable son should inherit. But Mehmed is powerful enough to break tradition if he wants. Gulbahar realizes her decades of work might be for nothing. She needs allies. She needs support. She needs to ensure that when Mehmed dies, Bayezid reaches Constantinople first. She begins one of the most sophisticated political campaigns in Ottoman history, all done quietly, carefully, from the shadows where she's lived for 30 years. May 3rd, 1481. Mehmed the Conqueror dies suddenly at age 49, possibly poisoned. The succession crisis everyone feared immediately erupts. Cem is with the army in Anatolia. Bayezid is governing in Amasya. Whoever reaches Constantinople first can claim the throne. Here's where Gulbahar's 30 years of preparation pay off. The Grand Vizier, secretly allied with Gulbahar, hides Mehmed's death for days to give Bayezid time to reach Constantinople. Palace officials delay notifying Sem. The Janissaries declare their support for Bayezid before he even arrives. When Bayezid enters Constantinople, the throne is already his. Sem tries to fight, but the battle is over before it begins. Gulbahar's careful political work has made resistance futile. After 30 years of waiting, her son is Sultan, and Gulbahar, the forgotten first wife, becomes Valid Sultan, the Sultan's mother, the most powerful position a woman can hold in the Ottoman Empire. Gulbahar's transformation is immediate and stunning. For 30 years, she lived in the shadows. Now, suddenly, she's at the center of power. As Valida Sultan, she controls the imperial harem, advises the Sultan on all major decisions, manages significant state revenues, influences government appointments, becomes one of the empire's major power brokers. The women who eclipsed her during Mehmed's reign, they're now under her authority. The palace that forgot her now bows to her. But here's what makes Gulbahar remarkable. She doesn't use her power for petty revenge. She uses it to stabilize the empire. Remember, Bayezid faces immediate challenges. Brother Cem is in rebellion. The empire is overextended from Mehmed's conquests. Treasury is depleted from constant warfare. Administrative system needs reform. Gulbahar becomes Bayezid's most trusted advisor, helping him navigate these crises. Her decades of observation, her patience, her understanding of palace politics, it all becomes invaluable. For the next 11 years, 1481 to 1492, Gulbahar wields significant influence. Unlike some Valide sultans who are ruthless and power-hungry, she's strategic and stabilizing. Her priorities: protecting Bayezid's reign, managing the Tem threat, her stepson's rebellion, reforming palace administration, supporting religious institutions, promoting arts and architecture. She commissions mosques, schools, hospitals, all bearing her name. These aren't just vanity projects, they're power statements. Every building that says, "Built by Gulbahar Hatun, mother of Sultan Bayezid II," reminds everyone of her position. The forgotten first wife has become impossible to forget. But here's the heartbreaking irony of Gulbahar's story. She won the game, but at what cost? She spent 30 years being ignored by the man she once loved. She watched him prefer other women. She lived in the shadows of the palace she should have ruled. Yes, she eventually became Valid Sultan. Yes, her son became Sultan. Yes, she achieved the power she deserved. But she was in her 60s when it happened. The best years of her life were spent waiting, planning, surviving in obscurity. Was it worth it? Only Gulbahar could answer that. Gulbahar Hatun died around 1492, after about 11 years as Valide Sultan. She was buried with honors befitting her position, the mother of a sultan, one of the empire's most powerful women. But her real legacy isn't in her tomb or her buildings. It's in what she proved. Patience can beat beauty. Younger, more beautiful women replaced her in Mehmed's affections, but none of them became Valid Sultan. Gulbahar did. The long game wins. 30 years of quiet preparation beat decades of being the favorite. When power shifted, she was ready. Motherhood is power. In the Ottoman system, being the mother of the Sultan was more powerful than being the Sultan's favorite. Gulbahar understood this when others didn't. Survival is victory. Simply outlasting your rivals, maintaining your position, and waiting for your moment. Sometimes that's the most effective strategy. Gulbahar's story resonates today because it's not really about medieval politics. It's about something universal. When you're replaced, we've all felt what Gulbahar felt. being replaced by someone younger, newer, seemingly better. The question is, do you give up or do you find a different path to success? Playing the long game. In a world obsessed with quick success, Gulbahar waited 30 years. Her patience paid off. The power of being underestimated. Everyone forgot about Gulbahar. That turned out to be her greatest advantage. While they ignored her, she was building the foundation of her future power. Finding your real value. When Mehmed stopped valuing her as a wife, she found value as a mother and political strategist. She pivoted instead of breaking. Gulbahar's story leaves us with haunting questions. Did she still love Mehmed? After 30 years of neglect, after watching him prefer others, did any of that teenage love remain? Or had it transformed into something else? Determination, ambition, cold strategy? Was it worth it? She won in the end. But was the victory worth the decades of waiting? Could she have found happiness if she'd given up and accepted a quiet life? What would she have done differently? If she could go back and tell her teenage self what was coming, what would she say? Fight harder, let go earlier, or do exactly what she did? So there you have it, the incredible story of the woman who was forgotten for 30 years and then became one of the Ottoman Empire's most powerful figures. Gulbahar Hatun teaches us that success isn't always immediate. Sometimes the greatest victories require decades of patience, strategy, and unwavering focus on your ultimate goal. What do you think? Was Gulbahar's patience admirable or tragic? Could you wait 30 years for your moment? What would you have done in her position? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, you absolutely need to subscribe because I'm revealing more incredible stories of women who played the long game and won. Next week, the concubine who waited 40 years to become empress, the princess who survived 3 coups, and the merchant's daughter who became a dynasty founder. These stories exist. They're inspiring, and they prove that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to disappear. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss these powerful stories of patience, strategy, and ultimate triumph. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that their moment will come, even if it takes longer than expected. Let's make sure Gulbahar Hatun gets the recognition she deserved 500 years ago. Thanks for joining me on this journey through one of history's greatest long games. Remember, the race isn't always won by the fastest, but sometimes by those who refuse to quit.